Boebert, Colorado reporter spar. Oh, you're going to fact-check me during the interview. Representative Lauren Boebert, Republican Colorado, sparred with a reporter from Colorado Public Radio, CPR, over climate change, immigration, and the general tone and content of his questions during an interview published on the publication's website Monday. Boebert said she was extremely disappointed in the bias of reporter Ryan Warner's questions about a third of the way through the interview, and she later battled with him over climate change and water, saying there's certainly a reason she doesn't listen to CPR News. Later, as the two discussed whether the Inflation Reduction Act, legislation that included billions in tax credits for climate-friendly energy sources, should have that name, Boebert asked, "Are we having a debate or an interview?" "I'm just checking." "Well, first of all, I get to say things as a journalist to set the record straight, so inflation is easing," Warner replied. "Oh, you're going to fact-check me during the interview," Boebert answered. "That's exactly right, and inflation is easing," Warner replied. "Okay, this is adorable. Go to your local King Soopers or your city market and ask the shoppers if inflation is down when they're buying 1 dozen eggs for $7, $10. Boebert replied before giving other examples of high prices. Earlier in the interview, the two tangled over immigration when Boebert accused Warner of bias for asking why she thought former President Trump scuttled a border deal in the Senate that had been proposed by one of the most conservative members of the Senate. That was a reference to the bipartisan border deal that Senator James Lankford, Republican Oklahoma, helped author. It was submarined by Trump and other Republicans in the House and Senate who said it did not go far enough to secure the border. Trump also suggested that passing the bill would help Democrats politically while hurting Republicans. Boebert mentioned her disappointment with the bias of Warner's questions at that point. "It's very unfortunate that we are having this time together to communicate policy, and every one of your questions is so far skewed and is so partisan," Boebert said. When the conversation turned to water, an issue along with immigration that Boebert had identified as being important in her district, Boebert took exception to another question from Warner. "How do you see the water needs, and what do you see as a representative's role in Congress to maintain them, to expand them, especially in the face of climate change, when we know the hotter weather will actually mean less in the way of water in the West?" Warner asked. "Wow. That's certainly a reason I don't listen to CPR News, and this is," Boebert said. "Wait, because I said. It's just interesting that we're talking about water, our most precious resource in Colorado," Boebert said. "Water would be reduced," Warner stated. "And there has to be something slipped in there that is partisan, and it's not even fact-based," Boebert said. "No, I'm going to stop here and say it is. I'm sorry, Congresswoman. It is not a partisan statement to say that warming temperatures," Warner said. "Okay, so I will answer your question about water," Boebert interjected, before going into an answer about how most of Colorado's water originates in the western slope of the Continental Divide, even though 90% of the state's population is to the east. Boebert represents the 3rd Congressional District in Colorado but is running for re-election in the 4th District.